economic expert of MSNBC. Today, he explained the situation with the stock market. He explained the situation with inflation. He explained the situation with the job market. He will show you graphs. He will explain each of the graphs. It's very interesting exchange and very educative one. Please, let's watch together. Play the clip.
Joining us now with his charts, former Treasury official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Ratner. So, Steve, inflation numbers in February were slightly better than expected, but still remain stubbornly high. Walk us through what's happening. Is there any potential good news on inflation coming?
Sure, Mika. We did get a little bit of good news yesterday. Inflation came in at 2.8% year over year. It was just slightly better than economists were expecting. And you can see here how inflation has come down. That's this black line right here. And food prices, interestingly, have actually now come down more than other items. So food is actually behaving very well. We'll get to eggs in a second. But this dotted red line is something we should take note of, because this is what consumers expect inflation to be a year from now. And you can see it was tracking the decline in overall inflation for a long time. Now it has shot up here to over 3%, closer to 4%. And why is that? That is because of the increasing talk about tariffs. Consumers have processed the fact that tariffs are inflation. They've learned the lesson we've all been trying to teach them for a long time, and they are now focused on inflation. And this is not good, because this can affect consumer behavior and ultimately prices themselves. Just for interest, let's look at a few of the categories and what their price changes have been year over year. We've all read a heck of a lot about eggs, now over $5 a dozen. They were up almost 60% over a year ago. There are special reasons for that. Some of the other things, it's a bit of a random list. Car insurance up 11%, water, trash, and so forth 5%, prescription drugs 4.5%, meat 4%, restaurants about 3.7%, medical care 3%. And then there are things that are going down. The good news is gas prices have come down a lot. They're down 3% year over year at the moment, and some other things down there.
But those things might be affected by tariffs. We shall see. The markets have been something to watch over the past few days. How are they looking moving forward?
Yeah, so the good news on inflation is offset by some pretty bad news on the market. And it's interesting to look at. If you go back to Election Day, which is when the market essentially processes the fact that we're going to have a new president and reacts to it, you can see some interesting things. If you look at Trump 1.0, you can see here this pink line, what happened. We all remember probably the market took off on Election Day, and it kind of never looked back. And as you get out here, 86 days from Election Day, it was up here. Interestingly, under Biden, it did even slightly better, but let's just call it just as well. So when Biden was elected, the market said, yeah, that's pretty good too. And it did well. Trump 2.0 is a different picture. It had its first day little surge here, wandered around as Trump was making statements during the transition. Then he takes office. He starts talking about tariffs. And this is what happens. The market just essentially goes straight down. And the market today is now 4% below roughly where it was the day he was elected. This is not something he likes. That's part of why you've heard him start to talk about how we may have a transition period. It may take a little while before my policies go into effect. But for a guy who loves the stock market, this is not good news. Let's just look at what some people are saying about this and why is the stock market behaving like this. I think there are really two reasons. This quote, I think, captures the essence of it. This market is just blatantly sick and tired of the back and forth on trade policy. Markets hate uncertainty, and they have gotten nothing but uncertainty since really the election and certainly since the inauguration. But then on the other side of the coin, there's also some fears about slowing growth. And so here's this quote. Right now, the concern on growth is impacting the markets more than inflation is helping it, is the implication here. So what's going on out there? This is an economy that is still growing. We're not in a recession. Most economists don't think we will be in one, although those chances have gone up a bit. But you have seen, as companies have been reporting their fourth quarter earnings, more and more of them warning about an economy that's softening. Delta saying, outlook lower due to the recent reduction in consumer and corporate confidence. You can call that Trump and trade, caused by increased macro uncertainty. The world is a very complicated place. Walmart seeing stress behaviors among budget-conscious consumers, and Kohl's essentially saying the same thing. Consumers making less than $50,000 are pretty constrained from making from a discretionary standpoint.
So, Steve, we have seen data recently about consumer confidence dropping sharply. That is also a part of the health of the economy in terms of how people are feeling, whether they want to make purchases, whether they want to buy homes. How is that looking, especially as it pertains to things that are tangible, like the housing market?
Yeah, you are starting to see signs of people pulling back. You've had this decline in spending, first decline since back here in 2024, largest decline since 2021. I think you have to put that down to confidence. And then the jobs numbers that we got last Friday were still positive. We added 141,000 jobs. The unemployment rate stayed at 4.1%. But if you look at this green line, which is the trend of job additions, you can see a slowing economy. You can see an economy that's getting a little bit long in the tooth in terms of its recovery, and the number of monthly jobs is now below this dotted black line, which is the pre-pandemic average.
So you all watch the explanation of the economic expert from MSNBC. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 1,000. I'm out.